Hello everyone and welcome to this latest video discussion as part of the RICS Tech Partner Programme. My name is Andrew Knight and I've been with RICS for over 12 years now, and I now currently work in our thought leadership part of the knowledge and practice part of RICS, with my role looking at the impact of data and technology and prop tech right across the built and natural environment. And with 110,000 members working worldwide, there's obviously a huge impact in both opportunities and sometimes managing the risk of technology across the whole built environment. And indeed, our members work right across that life cycle, all the way through land, planning and development, construction, brokerage, valuation, property management, building surveying, all those areas where, and indeed also the different asset types where data and technology is impacting residential, commercial, alternative infrastructure, and land itself. And today, I'm really glad to have Stephan joining me from WheresHome. So welcome to the call, Stephan.
Thank you, Andrew. It's good to be here.
Indeed. And before we kind of get into the bits and bytes and the kind of technology you're using and the value that's bringing, it's always nice to have a bit of a backstory and hear about, you know, the origin of WheresHome and what it's about and what kind of problems you're solving with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, where to start? The problems we're solving. So essentially, WheresHome was created to bring, I guess, the excitement back, for want of a better cliche, into the stressful process of relocating. It started out of our own experience as expats based over in the Middle East, having been born and raised in London and Southwest England. Southeast England. Yeah, I think it was very much from our own experience of understanding kind of how it could be better and the belief that it could be better, and then I guess validated through extensive testing and also research amongst, I guess, what's now our target audience, people who would be either relocating or repatriating back to the UK.
And how exactly does the service work, and what sort of technology are you using to bring the real value?
Yeah, so there's probably two key components to WheresHome. One is the digital platform, which is underpinned by a number of different APIs to help people understand where in the UK they might be planning or wish to call home, and I'll explain a bit more about how that works. And then the other component of the business is what we call our bespoke concierge service, which is where essentially we manage the end-to-end relocation or repatriation of our clients from point A to point B. Now, if I dwell on the relocation point for a little while longer, where we believe we're a little bit different is we build genuine and close relationships with our clients. I'm not saying that others don't do this, but from our own research and actually the experience that our clients come to us with, it seems to be one key component that's been missed or is lacking in the industry. And one of the key components in our success is building genuine, trusted relationships with each of our clients and really getting to the nuts and bolts and understanding what goes into making their move a real success. So this is very much a key part on the relocation side. It's more than just, you know, coordinating international shippers. It's really understanding the needs of that individual or their family, whether it requires them, you know, to think about school places. It's not just about understanding, you know, how to find a school place, but really educating them on the UK education system, partnering with a number of leading schools across the nation to really, you know, deliver that experience and that understanding that will help them find the right education system for them and their kids. So then looking at the property side of things, you know, whether they're looking to lease or to buy, we have an extensive network of trusted partners, again, nationwide, where actually one of our USPs is the ability to present off-market property opportunities to our clients, and really getting to the details of what it is that they're looking for from that location. We really pride ourselves on believing that, you know, the desired lifestyle is really key to your relocation. So simply, you know, moving your personal effects from point A to B is really wide of the mark for the experience that we believe our clients deserve. And then there's a number of kind of additional services where the clients are looking to relocate pets. We work with a number of providers and partners in that space, and equally, actually, one thing that's particularly useful and needed by our clients is our mental health and wellness service. Now, believe it or not to say that the UK is a tough place that requires such a service, But regardless of where people are relocating to, what we're increasingly finding is it might not be a familiar pace for one or both of the individuals that are relocating to the UK. So actually being able to support them on that journey from a wellness perspective, whether it's socially, integrating them with key communities in that area that they've chosen to relocate to, but really, helping them understand the environment that they've relocated to, the climate, simple things that we might take for granted, like understanding the healthcare system and the NHS, for example, or whether it's private they wish to go for, really holding their hand on every step of that experience as they relocate, really makes a huge difference to them. So in that space, we partnered with, a doctor of psychology, previously based in LA, but actually she's also someone that's gone through that relocation experience. So, at every touch point that we offer our service, we've got people that really understand what it is our clients are going through.
So, I mean, it's fascinating that at one level, this feels like a very human service, but you're obviously able to leverage technology at the same time.
Precisely that, yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that actually, because the tech side is kind of underpinning the platform and the other side of the business that I mentioned earlier. So in terms of whereshome.co.uk, the platform itself, this again was built out of that humanizing need to help people connect and understand where they believe they want to call home, hence Where's Home. So actually, the insight that this was born out of, again, was linked to our own experience, where the question of where to relocate to seemed to be a real conundrum. Now, you might think, why is that ever an issue? Like, especially being born and raised in the same country we're relocating back to, sure, it's an automatic and obvious experience or decision. But to draw it back to our own personal situation, when we relocated from the UK to the Middle East, we went as literally a twosome in our 20s. So what we needed from our locality and our lifestyle was very different to the scenario we found ourselves in when we were relocating back to the UK, which is we're now 3 young boys in tow and a nanny. Our requirements for what we needed for where we call home were completely different. Our expectations, our living patterns, our behaviours, our needs and wants were completely different. Hence, the months it took us to actually figure out where can we recreate as much of the experience, albeit without the sun, back home in the UK and be genuinely happy. And it was on that journey that we realised we weren't the only ones suffering from that conundrum of a question, and we felt actually that the platform that we've built helps people really answer that question in an easy and intuitive way.
And I'm almost guessing, but because this was so much, when I say a personal project, but it was something born out of an issue that you literally had lived and breathed. I mean, do you and your co-founder come from a prop tech background, or was this literally just almost a realization that you could help the prop tech world because you really understood underneath the surface the real issues around this kind of problem, as it or solution that needs to be created?
Yeah, exactly that, Andrew. So, I mean, my background is predominantly in digital, working in consumer services and telecoms, and my co-founder's background is in finance. So, not your typical backgrounds when you think about a relocation service, but actually in terms of the platform and the experience and the service that we offer, we find actually both skill sets and approaches really complement each other. And so from a kind of trusting perspective that we find with our clients and what we've been able to emulate and build out within the team, there's a real empathy on the concierge side of the business, really building relationships and understanding what it is that our clients really need from their relocation, not just seeing it as a box moving exercise, but really getting to the nuts and bolts of what that family needs. And then equally on the platform side, as we continue to grow and scale that side of the business, really looking at how we can leverage technology to deliver what we believe should be a client-led digitalized experience to managing their relocation.
So, I mean, Stephan, in terms of that digital platform you've built, presumably at the core, you've got increasingly varied and powerful kind of data sets, whether that's around perhaps consumer behavior and commercial data, and obviously econometric and locational data. What does that look like in terms of the kind of visibility you have of those data sets?
Oh, it's incredible, to be honest, and it's actually one of the key kind of commercial aspects of WheresHome is being able to really understand the data value that sits behind the service that we hold or that we operate. So in terms of the platform itself, it really gives us a deep insight into people's behaviours and patterns around their appetites for moving. We can also see where geographically we're seeing a number of people choose to relocate to, which is great for us and really insightful, because what we can do with that is then understand and actually tailor our offering and actually our partnerships to support those key locations that we are finding expats are choosing to relocate to. We also have a wealth of data around the commercials that sit behind that, so the types of property in particular that our clients might be looking for, what their spend patterns and behaviour look like, and the types of properties that are actually seeking out within the UK. And that's both from a purchasing perspective and also a letting perspective as well. And we're finding that information, again, is equally powerful, as again, it helps us to create content and also to advise our clients in a really meaningful way. So yeah, so that's just a couple of examples of how, you know, the data that we currently hold is really helping to drive the business forward.
And I guess a question that just sort of, you know, has rudely popped into my head, I suppose, given the effect of the pandemic, are you seeing this kind of hybrid remote working changing people's kind of choice set about where they might want to relocate to, irrespective of perhaps where their main office might be?
Yeah, massively, and I'm glad you touched on that, because there's a lot of trend data that we've seen, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years. I think what COVID or the pandemic kind of highlighted was, again, a number of people, essentially the whole world was locked down. A lot of people moved to remote work models, but equally people started to consider the importance of space of where they were living. Naturally, with a lot of our clients and work, we saw a huge concentration of people in the capital. And over that period following COVID, once the restrictions started to ease up, we found a lot of appetite and movement of people further out, right? So what we call the home counties out of the capital, which I don't think will be a surprise to many people, because what we're finding is actually people who were able and in the appetite to sell their property in the hope of obviously expanding or getting more space was born out of the need that COVID essentially surfaced. So people now looking for potentially more garden space and potentially even an extra room, you know, not necessarily for family members, but to create a home office or some sort of expansion space to make that home living environment more comfortable, seeing as they're spending considerably more time there in the course of the week. So that was definitely the trend that we saw. And now what we're seeing is actually almost a bit of a return back now, okay, as offices and employers are now looking to actually have their employees come back to the office. We're seeing a slight trend now where actually prices within the capital are again starting to increase slightly. There was a period where I might even go as far to say they started to drop, and actually what you would find is that London bubble or that London effect seemed to spread right across the southeast. What we're finding now is actually as a result of that kind of migration, if you like, from people out of the capital into those home counties, you're finding surrounding areas and their average prices were also increasing, you know. So there was this. What we're also finding as well is, you know, maybe stepping away from the buying market into the letting space, is again huge increases in prices from a letting perspective, or average prices from a letting perspective, as people potentially wanted to look at it as a letting opportunity until that dream home that now, you know, might take a little bit more to find was available. And I think this has, you know, been well documented in press across the country around the increase in rental rates and I guess the availability as well.
Indeed. And I guess winding back to kind of the origin story, I mean, you must have started presumably with a kind of almost a blank sheet of paper when you thought, well, we have a vision of what this platform will be. What did the process look like when you actually started developing this, and almost where did you start?
Yeah, so again, really good question. I think the key for us was really understanding what was it that was important to us from where we wanted to call home. Okay, and I think the key into the origins of the platforms was the realization that there wasn't a single place where we could find all of this information. Okay, it felt like to find out about property prices, you had to go to one of the property portals. To find out about parks and restaurants and environments, you know, a quick Google search might give you, you know, a fair bit of information, but there wasn't necessarily something that brought it all together in one simple search. The other key thing as well was obviously schooling. You know, with 3 young boys, one in nursery, 2 in kind of junior school, We really wanted to think quite carefully about what it is that their education needs were, whether it was going to be a state or independent system that we wanted to put them into. And often what we find, and again, this is underpinned in the platform, is you'll find people often start their relocation search either with the area where they want to buy and live in terms of their housing and what their money can afford them in that area, or actually where are the good schools and can my budget get me what I need in those areas. Okay, a lot of that is driven by this kind of concept of catchment areas. So obviously a long established concept that state schools operate with, where actually you'll find that property prices are often higher in areas where the best state schools are, as people obviously look to move to them for those areas. So there was a number of different factors that went into our own decision making that we felt were going to be common to a lot of people in the same position. And the other thing as well that was really important for us is, quite frustratingly, we realized we'd invested way too much time in that process of trying to understand where to call home, that relocation piece. So we really wanted to create something that, reduced that time quite considerably. People often compare the process of relocating to almost choosing a holiday or maybe booking a hotel. I would argue it's considerably more involved. I think the average consideration time and research period for booking a holiday is somewhere in the region of around 5 to 6 hours. What we're finding through our research on the platform is actually people planning their relocation from a start point of trying to understand where to relocate to is somewhere in the region of 55 to 62 hours. So to some extent, whilst the front end experience might seem similar in terms of the experience, the problems that are being solved are completely different, and the consideration time that people put into these decisions are completely different. So just kind of bringing that back to the 2 points earlier about whether it starts with the property or whether it starts with the school, they're typically the two kind of anchor points around which people plan their relocations, and then naturally they then look to emulate as much as they can around the lifestyle piece with, are there good restaurants, is there a gym nearby, what's it like if I need to commute, how close is the local train station or tube station, how close am I to the local airport. A lot of those considerations then come in, which is why we wanted to create an interface and a platform that presents all of that in a clear and intuitive way.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, you've obviously achieved an awful lot in a relatively short period of time. And what's your vision looking forward for the platform and WheresHome, and where you think you can extend what you do and improve it?
So I think one of the key things is really to expand the platform to kind of take this concept of a marketplace. Our vision and our belief is that actually for people that want to plan their relocation service, they should be able to do so independently. The fact that we have a concierge service isn't actually the origins of the business. It just so happens that we believe we can do it, and we've proven to be able to do it at an exceptional level. But what we actually are building with the platform and we're hoping to do is to empower people and clients to essentially plan and manage their moves independently themselves, and we believe that digitally creating a platform to digitally enable that is more than possible, but it's a huge gap. So we know that there's a lot of appetite. I think there's a few of the other people in this space looking to do similar things, and we think it's very much needed in the UK to essentially get over this bump and this hurdle of people who would be, otherwise keen on planning their repatriation, but are kind of put off by the minefield that, is presented before them. So coming back to, again, some of the data and the insight that we can see through the research that we carry out, we often hear clients, and we can see through the data, that they actually delay or in some cases don't move at all for a period of 2 to 3 years, and that's purely born out of the pain and the stress or the worry of actually planning that move, particularly with children in tow. It's just something that they'll put off till another time. And we don't believe it should be that way. We really believe that, whether it's an app or a web-based platform, whether it's leveraging technologies like AI, or APIs to underpin the data that we present, there's a huge opportunity to really join the various dots that go into planning that repatriation or that relocation move, either domestically or overseas.
And Stephan, is this your first sort of voyage into entrepreneurship? If so, how are you finding it? Especially, I believe you're a husband and wife team. So how's that felt from a kind
We
of
are.
just an experiential perspective? Because obviously you've been very focused on allowing other people to have a stress-free relocation, but has this been a stress-free
Yeah.
journey for you and your?
Well, I can confidently say we're both still married, so I think we're somehow making it work through the stressful nights and days that we invest in this. But no, on a serious point, I think it's something that we're both incredibly passionate about, and I think that definitely bonds us actually through the really challenging times that we find, as many will find in their various entrepreneurial journeys. I think having that vision together and that belief and that common goal is everything. And also being super clear on actually the roles and responsibilities that we each carry within the business. So typically, many might see the husband and wife thing as a bit of a challenge. I think for us, we find it's our strength. Sometimes the challenge can be, do we ever switch off? And I'm not sure we're probably the best judge to answer that. But in amongst it all, we're a family first, so we definitely make time for that and for the boys. Yeah, in many cases, spare moments are often spent thinking about how we service clients, how we grow the platform, some of the challenges that we might be facing, and I guess it's just a continual race to find the balance between work and life.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, for many years, I ran my own business, and it can become all-consuming, can't it? And I know, obviously, as an employee, you can end up working and perhaps getting that life balance of work and personal time wrong. But I suppose it is. I suppose that the positive thing is you can be thinking about your project, even though you're not physically working on it. At least if you're perhaps playing with the kids, then maybe the odd thought comes into your head that relates to business, but you can
Yeah,
still be in the moment with your kids at the same time. I mean,
yeah,
on that basis,
absolutely.
what sort of advice would you give to somebody who's considering, taking that sort of jump in at the deep end to become an entrepreneur, particularly in this kind of whole property space? Because there's obviously so much going on in the space, which in many ways is
Yeah.
tremendous, so much innovation and creativity, but perhaps it can feel a bit crowded and a bit daunting for people to make that first step.
Yeah, I think it really can. I think it really can. I think a lot of people will find that, when it really gets tough, it's an opportunity to just kind of, I don't want to use the word quit, but you can really start to balance, is it worth it? And I guess my advice, if I can give any, if I'm qualified to at this point, is really believing your why. And I think if the why is strong enough, it will get you through the tough times. And the tough times are inevitable, right? And there's no doubt that they will come. And I think for anyone on this journey or thinking about this journey, if the romantic view of running your own business is, having your own diary and not having to answer to anyone and not having a boss, and that's what's driving you to go down this journey, then I would say save yourself the time and the stress and the worry now, because it's certainly not all roses. So I think it's important for people to see the harsh realities, to understand the sacrifices that come with the journey as well. But I come back to the belief that if your why is strong enough, you will persevere, you will continue to push through. I think a key thing is communication. Obviously, we're a husband and wife team, so communication is absolutely key. Open and honest communication as well, right? And I think it's really important to create this space to be open and to be quite frank where you need to be. It might not necessarily be conducive or or what's probably often talked about in what goes into a winning partnership, but I think it really can be the be all and the end all, right? I don't think you can allow yourself to be in an environment where you aren't open and honest and truthful about what you believe is needed for the business in terms of your opinions, but also how you're feeling in that moment. Because you never know, the other person might be feeling the exact same way, right? And so I think it's always important to create room to check in, to see how your own feelings and emotions are, but also that of your partner and the team. One tool I think is quite helpful is journaling, and I think journaling is particularly helpful and important because it also serves as a mode for reflection. I think it's very often easy to forget the small wins or the moments for gratitude, and they can actually be the things that get you through the tough times when you think nothing's moving or nothing's happening. I think coming back to your thoughts, feelings, and what was happening at a point in time. Well, firstly, when you look back on it, make you realize you got through that time. And secondly, also give you an opportunity to reflect and realize that you found an answer to whatever that challenge was, so you can do it again. And also don't be afraid to ask for help as well, so to get that one in.
As you say, yeah, I mean, I think, every great team is a mix of people, isn't it, with different skills. And as you say, that kind of progressive building of resilience is important, isn't it? That sort of confidence building and realizing that you can get through challenging times and that you will eventually find an answer, and that you survive those what may at the time have felt insurmountable, but they prove to be a solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation, Stephan, a lot of insight there, and really fascinating what you've done. And I think what's so impressive is, as you say, you've really got the why by the scruff of the neck there. You really understand why you're doing this, and having walked in the shoes of the consumer, I know, having in a previous life worked in that kind of industry where they literally walk in the shoes of the consumer. You really understand the issues and the challenges and what kind of service really people need, because there's always a danger, I think, in the kind of prop tech world of building a solution, looking for a problem. And I think you identified the problem and built the solution around that, didn't you? So.
Thank you. Yes, I think we did.
Indeed. Well, I look forward to catching up again. But for today, thanks ever so much for your time, Stephan.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for having me.